disrespect me in front of my employees. Get out of this store right now!
In 3 minutes, a successful career was destroyed. Not by incompetence, not by scandal, but by the color of her skin and one white woman's rage. Maya Henderson walked into her workplace that Tuesday morning as a respected regional manager. She left as a viral video, a cautioned example, and a statistic. What happened in those 180 seconds would expose the brutal reality that no amount of education, professionalism, or dignity can always shield you from racism's vicious strike. This is the story of how a single slap echoed through an entire corporation, and how the woman who threw it learned that some actions can never be undone.
Maya Henderson's morning routine was a carefully choreographed rhythm of excellence. At 6:47 a.m., her alarm would sound, not jarring but gentle, a gradual awakening that matched her philosophy on life. Approach everything with intention, never chaos. By 7:15, she'd be reviewing regional sales reports over French press coffee, her navy business suit already pressed and hanging on the bedroom door. By 7:45, her natural hair was styled into an elegant twist, her makeup minimal but polished, and her briefcase packed with the quarterly presentation she'd spent 3 weeks perfecting. She was 34 years old and had worked for Grandview Retail Corporation for 9 years. Started as a sales associate during college, promoted to assistant manager within 2 years, store manager by 28, and just 6 months ago, regional manager, overseeing 14 locations across 3 states. Her parents had cried when she got that promotion. Her father, who'd worked construction for 40 years, had held her face in his weathered hands and said, "You've gone further than I ever dreamed possible, baby girl." Maya never took that for granted. Every morning, she carried the weight of representation, not because she wanted to, but because the world had placed it on her shoulders the moment she entered spaces where faces like hers were rare. In corporate meetings, she was often the only black woman in the room. She'd learned to speak twice as articulately, dress twice as professionally, and work twice as hard just to be considered equally competent. It was exhausting. It was unfair. But it was her reality. That Tuesday morning felt like any other. She pulled into the Grandview flagship store parking lot at 8:52 a.m., always early, never just on time. The store wouldn't open until 10, but Maya liked arriving during the quiet hours when she could walk the aisles, check inventory displays, and connect with the opening crew. Leadership, she believed, wasn't about barking orders from an office. It was about being present, being visible, being human. She greeted Marcus, the security guard, with her usual warm smile, checked in with Jennifer at Cosmetics about the new product line, complimented David in electronics on how he'd organized the latest smartphone display. These small moments mattered. They built trust, morale, and loyalty. Maya understood that a team that felt valued would move mountains for you. But as she approached the store manager's office, she noticed something different. The door was closed, unusual for this hour, and through the frosted glass, she could see a silhouette pacing back and forth with aggressive, jerky movements. Maya's stomach tightened. Something was wrong. The store manager, Carolyn Winters, had always been complicated. A white woman in her late 40s who'd held her position for 12 years. Carolyn had a reputation for being territorial and resistant to change. When Maya was promoted to regional manager, technically making her Carolyn's supervisor, the dynamic had shifted uncomfortably. Carolyn's smiles became tighter, her responses in emails grew curt. In meetings, she'd interrupt Maya mid-sentence or subtly undermine her suggestions with passive-aggressive comments like, "Well, that's an interesting perspective, but those of us who've been here longer know what actually works." Maya had tried everything: professional courtesy, direct conversation, even involving HR to mediate. But Carolyn's resentment simmered just beneath the surface, barely contained. And Maya had learned to recognize the signs when that resentment was about to boil over. Today, the signs were everywhere. As Maya knocked gently on the office door, Carolyn's voice snapped through the wood. "What?" Maya opened the door slowly. "Good morning, Carolyn. I wanted to review the—" "You wanted to check up on me, you mean." Carolyn stood behind her desk, arms crossed, her red business suit somehow looking like armor. Her face was flushed, her jaw clenched. Maya kept her voice calm, measured. "That's not what this is. I'm here to support you, Carolyn. We're a team." "A team," Carolyn laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You know what I think? I think you're here to push me out. Corporate's golden girl, checking off their diversity boxes, climbing over people who actually earned their positions." The words landed like a slap. Maya felt her chest tighten, but she maintained her composure. She'd heard variations of this before. The implication that her success wasn't earned but gifted, that she was an affirmative action hire rather than a qualified professional. It never hurt less, but she learned not to show the wound. "Carolyn, if you have concerns about my leadership, I'm happy to discuss them professionally. But right now, I need you to—" "Don't you dare tell me what I need." Carolyn's voice rose, sharp enough that Maya was certain employees outside could hear. "I'm sick of you walking around here like you own the place." And in that moment, Maya saw something flicker in Carolyn's eyes, something dangerous. Something that told her this wasn't just about territory or professional jealousy anymore. This was about to become something much worse.
What Maya didn't know was that Caroline had been building a case against her for weeks. Not a legitimate case based on performance or policy violations. Maya's record was impeccable. But a case built on perception, on whispered complaints, on carefully crafted narratives designed to paint Maya as aggressive, difficult, and threatening. All the coded language that's been weaponized against black women in professional spaces for generations. Caroline had been collecting incidents. That time Maya firmly corrected a cashier who'd been rude to a customer, Caroline documented it as hostile workplace behavior. When Maya declined to approve overtime for an employee who'd missed 3 shifts that week, Caroline framed it as discriminatory management practices. Every decision Maya made through a lens of professionalism and accountability, Caroline twisted into evidence of incompetence, or worse. And now, standing in this office, Caroline was ready to use that fabricated ammunition. "You think you're better than everyone else," Caroline continued, her voice trembling with barely restrained rage. "Walking around with your designer briefcase and your corporate double talk, looking down on those of us who've actually put in the work." Maya took a measured breath. "Caroline, I've never looked down on anyone. I respect every member of this team, including you. But if you're struggling with our working relationship, we need to address this through proper channels." "Proper channels?" Caroline's laugh was bitter. "You mean HR? The same HR that promoted you over 3 more qualified candidates just because the company needed to improve their diversity statistics?" There it was, the explicit statement of what had been implied for months. Maya felt her face grow hot, but she refused to let her anger show. She'd learned long ago that black women's anger was always weaponized against them. If she raised her voice, she'd be aggressive. If she showed frustration, she'd be difficult. The emotional labor of remaining calm while being insulted was its own form of violence. "My qualifications speak for themselves," Maya said quietly. "I've consistently exceeded performance metrics, improved team retention, and increased revenue across every location I've managed. This has nothing to do with diversity and everything to do with results." "Results?" Caroline stepped around her desk, closing the distance between them. "You want to talk about results? 3 of my best employees have come to me saying they're uncomfortable working under your supervision, that you make them feel judged, that you have unrealistic expectations." Maya's mind raced. She knew exactly which employees Caroline was referring to, the same 3 who'd been written up multiple times for tardiness and policy violations before Maya's promotion. Employees who'd been coddled by Caroline's lax management style and resented Maya's accountability standards. "If employees have concerns, they should address them directly with me
or file formal complaints. Secondhand complaints aren't actionable. Oh, they're about to be actionable. Caroline's smile was cold, because I've been documenting everything, and upper management is going to hear how you've created a hostile work environment, how you've targeted certain employees, how you've abused your authority. Maya felt the ground shifting beneath her. This was a coordinated attack. Caroline wasn't just venting frustration, she was executing a plan designed to destroy Maya's reputation and career. Caroline, if you have formal complaints, submit them through the proper channels. But these accusations are serious and unfounded, and I won't stand here and— You won't stand here and what? Caroline's voice escalated suddenly, causing Maya to instinctively step back. Are you threatening me now? Because that's what it sounds like. My supervisor using her position to intimidate me? The office door suddenly opened. 3 employees stood in the hallway. Jennifer from cosmetics, Kyle from shipping, and Amanda from customer service. All white, all looking uncomfortable, but curious. They'd clearly heard the shouting. Caroline's expression changed instantly. The fury transformed into something calculated, something performative. Her eyes welled with tears. Her voice became shaky and vulnerable. "I'm just trying to do my job," Caroline said loudly enough for the employees to hear clearly, "and I'm being harassed. I'm being targeted because I've been here too long, because I'm in the way of someone's career advancement." Maya's heart pounded. She recognized what was happening. Caroline was creating witnesses, building a narrative. In 30 seconds, she had transformed from aggressor to victim, and Maya from professional supervisor to threatening villain. "That's not what's happening here," Maya said firmly but carefully. "Caroline, please step back. You're escalating a professional disagreement into— Don't tell me what I'm doing." Caroline's voice broke dramatically. "You've been undermining me since day one, making me feel incompetent, making me feel like I don't belong in my own store." The irony would have been laughable if it wasn't so devastating. Caroline was now claiming to experience exactly what she'd been putting Maya through for months, the feeling of being unwelcome, undermined, and disrespected in your workplace. Maya glanced at the employees in the doorway. Jennifer wouldn't meet her eyes. Kyle looked confused. Amanda was already pulling out her phone. "Everyone, please return to your stations," Maya said with as much authority as she could muster. "This is a private management discussion." But Caroline wasn't done. "Private? You want this private because you know you're wrong. You know you've been treating me unfairly and now you want to hide it." The attraction had attracted more attention. Maya could see at least 6 more employees gathering in the hallway, phones out, some already recording. Her mind calculated rapidly. Anything she said or did now would be captured, edited, and potentially used against her. The safest move was to disengage completely. "Caroline, I'm ending this conversation. We'll schedule a formal meeting with HR present to address your concerns through appropriate channels." Maya turned to leave, her professional training kicking in. De-escalate, document, involve human resources, follow protocol. But as she reached the door, Caroline's hand shot out and grabbed Maya's arm. "Don't you walk away from me," Caroline hissed, her grip surprisingly strong. Maya looked down at the hand on her arm, then up at Caroline's face. The facade of victimhood had cracked slightly, revealing the rage beneath. "Remove your hand," Maya said quietly but clearly. "Or what? You'll report me? Add it to your little grievances?" Caroline's fingers tightened. Maya pulled her arm away firmly, but without aggression. "Do not put your hands on me again." And that's when Caroline made her fatal miscalculation. Later, when Maya would replay this moment in her mind, and she would, thousands of times, she would realize that Caroline had been building towards this explosion for so long that she had lost all sense of consequence. The resentment, the jealousy, the racism that had been fermenting in Caroline's mind had reached a boiling point. And in that hallway, with employees watching and phones recording, Caroline did something unforgivable. She slapped Maya across the face. The sound echoed. Gasps erupted from the watching employees. Someone screamed. Maya's head snapped to the side from the impact, her cheek immediately burning with the imprint of Caroline's palm. For 3 seconds, 3 eternal seconds, the world stopped.
Maya's hand rose instinctively to her face. Her eyes watered from the shock and pain. Every cell in her body screamed to respond, to defend herself, to match violence with violence. But she didn't. Because Maya knew, with the kind of knowing that comes from a lifetime of navigating racism, that any retaliation would be used to confirm every stereotype Caroline had been trying to paint. The angry black woman, the aggressive supervisor, the threatening presence. So instead, Maya stood completely still, let the tears fall, let the phones capture Caroline's violence and her restraint, let the witnesses see exactly what had happened and who had initiated it. "You just assaulted me," Maya said, her voice shaking but clear, "in front of multiple witnesses. And I want everyone here to know I did not touch her. I did not provoke this. I was attempting to leave a hostile situation." Caroline seemed to realize what she had done. The color drained from her face. Her hand was still raised, frozen in the aftermath of the slap. She grabbed me first," Caroline stammered, looking at the employees desperately. But the phones had captured everything. The truth was recorded from multiple angles. There was no ambiguity about who had been the aggressor. Maya pulled out her own phone with trembling hands and called corporate HR. When the director answered, Maya spoke with remarkable calm given what had just occurred. "This is Maya Henderson, regional manager. I'm calling to report a physical assault by store manager Caroline Winters. I need security and police immediately. Multiple employees witnessed and recorded the incident. I'm removing myself from the premises for my own safety." She ended the call and walked towards the exit. Employees parted silently, phones still recording, capturing Maya's dignity even in this moment of violation. Behind her, she could hear Caroline beginning to sob. "Please, I didn't mean, it was an accident." But some things, once done, cannot be undone.
The next 180 seconds changed everything. Maya sat in her car in the parking lot, hands shaking so violently she couldn't grip her phone. The left side of her face throbbed, already swelling. She caught her reflection in the rearview mirror, her carefully styled hair slightly disheveled, her professional composure cracked, the red imprint of Caroline's hand visible across her brown skin. This was the moment she'd been warned about her entire career, not explicitly, but in the quiet conversations with other black women in corporate spaces. The warnings disguised as advice: keep everything documented, never be alone with certain people, always remain calm no matter what. They're waiting for you to confirm their worst assumptions. She'd done everything right. She'd stayed professional. She hadn't raised her voice. She had attempted to de-escalate. She had followed protocol. And still, she'd been assaulted. Inside the store, chaos had erupted. Jennifer from Cosmetics was already posting the video to TikTok with trembling hands, hashtags forming instinctively. Hashtag workplace racism, hashtag retail drama, hashtag viral. Within minutes, the footage would have 15,000 views. Within an hour, 500,000. By evening, it would be everywhere. But in that moment, Maya didn't know her pain was about to become public spectacle. She was just trying to breathe through the shock and humiliation. Her phone rang, corporate HR. She answered on the third ring, her voice surprisingly steady. "Maya, this is Director Patterson. I've just been briefed on the incident. First, are you safe? Do you need medical attention?" I'm in my car. My face is swelling, but I'm not seriously injured." Even now, even traumatized, Maya's professional training held firm. State facts. Remain composed. Don't let emotion undermine credibility. "We are sending someone to take your statement immediately. Maya, I want you to know that what happened is absolutely unacceptable. Grandview Corporation has zero tolerance for workplace violence and—" "Director Patterson," Maya's voice cracked slightly. "Caroline didn't just assault me physically. For months, she's been undermining my authority, making racist comments disguised as professional critiques, and creating a hostile work environment. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was the culmination of systematic workplace harassment that went unaddressed. There was a pause. When Patterson spoke again, his tone had shifted, more careful, more legally cautious. Those are serious allegations. We'll need comprehensive documentation and, I have documentation, emails, witness statements, records of every complaint I filed about Caroline's behavior that was minimized or ignored. I followed every protocol. I reported through proper channels, and nothing changed until she physically attacked me. Another pause. Maya could almost hear the calculation happening. Liability assessment, public relations concerns, legal exposure. Maya, the company values you tremendously. You're one of our top performers. We want to ensure you're supported through this situation, and I want her fired. Maya's voice was firm now, cutting through the corporate platitudes. Immediately, for cause, and I want a formal investigation into why my previous complaints were dismissed, because I guarantee I'm not the first person Caroline has treated this way. I'm just the first one who was high-ranking enough and documented everything thoroughly enough that you couldn't ignore it. Back inside the store, Caroline was discovering the consequences of those 3 minutes. Corporate security had arrived and was escorting her to a private office, not for protection, but for containment. The store manager, who'd worked there for 12 years, who'd believed her position was secure, was about to learn how quickly institutional loyalty disappears when liability becomes public. The videos were already spreading. Employees who'd witnessed the assault were being interviewed by arriving media. Someone had called the local news station. The parking lot was about to become a circus. And in one of those videos, viewed millions of times before the day ended, you could see it all clearly. Caroline in her red suit, face twisted with rage, hand raised and striking. Maya in her blue suit, composed even in violation, refusing to retaliate. The gasps of bystanders. The immediate aftermath, where Caroline tries to claim self-defense while Maya simply stands there, hand to her cheek, dignity intact, even as tears fall. The video that would define both their lives was only 18 seconds long, but it told an entire story about race, power, workplace dynamics, and a violence that erupts when mediocrity feels threatened by excellence. When Maya finally returned to the corporate office 3 hours later, face iced, official statement given, lawyer consulted, she was met by the CEO himself, not in a conference room, but in the executive lobby, visible to everyone. A deliberate, public show of support that was simultaneously genuine concern and calculated damage control. Ms. Henderson, on behalf of Grandview Corporation, I offer our deepest apologies for what occurred today. Caroline Winters has been terminated effective immediately. We're conducting a full investigation into the workplace environment at that location and reviewing all previous complaints you filed. This is not who we are as a company. She looked at him steadily. With respect, sir, this is exactly who you were, until it was caught on video and went viral. I filed complaints for months about Caroline's behavior. They were documented, specific, and backed by evidence, and they were ignored until ignoring them became publicly embarrassing. The CEO's discomfort was visible. Around them, employees had stopped working, watching this confrontation between power and accountability. We failed you, he admitted finally, and we will do better, not just with words, but with action, systemic action. Maya nodded slowly. I'll believe it when I see it. For now, I need time to process what happened. I'll be taking medical leave as advised by my attorney. As she walked towards the elevator, something unexpected happened. A black woman from accounting stood up and began clapping. Then another employee joined, and another. Within moments, the entire office was applauding, not just for Maya, but for every person who'd ever been assaulted, dismissed, undermined, or violated in a workplace, and told to be professional about their own dehumanization. Maya's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they weren't from pain. They were from recognition, from solidarity, from the exhausting relief of finally being believed.
Caroline Winters was fired within 3 hours of the assault. No severance package, no glowing reference letter, no graceful exit. Her 12-year career at Grandview ended with a security escort to her car and a terse termination letter citing gross misconduct and workplace violence. The company moved swiftly, decisively, and publicly, not purely out of moral conviction, but because the alternative was catastrophic liability. The video had exploded across social media. By that evening, it had been viewed 47 million times. News outlets from local affiliates to national networks covered the story. Think pieces proliferated analyzing workplace racism, white fragility, and the particular vulnerability of black women in professional spaces. Caroline's LinkedIn profile was deleted, but screenshots circulated forever, a digital scarlet letter. Some people felt sympathy for her. Online comments claimed she'd just had a bad day or was under a lot of stress. These defenses, predictable and hollow, revealed how quickly violence against black bodies is rationalized, minimized, explained away as understandable human error rather than the consequence of deeply held prejudice. But the video didn't lie, and for once, the evidence was too clear to spin. Maya took 3 weeks of medical leave, not just to recover from the physical assault, the swelling went down within days, but to process the psychological trauma, the violation of being struck, the humiliation of it happening publicly, the exhausting vindication of being believed only after her pain became viral content. She spent those weeks talking to a therapist who specialized in racial trauma. She learned language for experiences she'd never had words for, microaggressions that accumulate like paper cuts until you're bleeding, the exhaustion of code switching, the impossible calculus of responding to racism while knowing your reaction will be judged more harshly than the action that provoked it. You survived, her therapist told her during one session, but survival isn't the same as thriving. You deserve more than just not being assaulted. You deserve workplaces where your humanity is recognized from the start. Maya cried during those sessions. Not gentle tears, but the kind of sobbing that comes from years of holding everything in. She mourned the energy she'd spent being exceptional just to be considered adequate. She grieved the parts of herself she'd suppressed to make white colleagues comfortable. She raged at a system that required her pain to go viral before it was taken seriously. But she also made a decision. When Maya returned to Grandview Corporation, she didn't return to her previous role. Instead, she accepted a newly created position, Director of Equity and Workplace Culture. The role came with authority, resources, and a direct line to the executive team. Her first initiative was mandatory implicit bias training for all management. Her second was establishing an independent review board for workplace complaints. Her third was a comprehensive audit of hiring, promotion, and disciplinary practices across all locations. Some people praised this. Others grumbled that she was benefiting from playing the race card. Maya ignored both. She was done performing for approval. She was focused on structural change. 6 months after the assault, Maya gave a keynote address at a national retail conference. Standing at the podium in a new blue suit, she spoke directly to the camera. "I was assaulted at work because a white woman felt threatened by my competence and authority. That's the simple truth.
But the deeper truth is that this happens every day in less visible ways. Black women are interrupted in meetings. Our ideas are dismissed until a white colleague repeats them. We're told we're too aggressive when we advocate for ourselves, and not leadership material when we don't. We're expected to be grateful for opportunities we overqualified for. And when we finally break through barriers, we're accused of being diversity hires rather than being recognized for excellence. She paused, looking directly into the audience. The slap I received was caught on video. But what about all the slaps that aren't? The subtle ones, the daily ones, the ones that don't leave visible marks but absolutely leave scars. Who's recording those? Who's going viral defending those victims? The room was silent. Real change doesn't come from firing one racist store manager. It comes from examining why her behavior was tolerated for so long. It comes from listening to complaints before they escalate to violence. It comes from recognizing that Black excellence isn't a threat. It's an asset that should be celebrated, protected, and promoted. Her speech went viral too, but this time on her own terms. This time her voice was centered, not just her trauma. Caroline Winters, meanwhile, struggled to rebuild her life. No retail company would hire her. Her name was permanently associated with the assault. She posted a public apology video that felt performative and self-pitying, focused more on how her life had been ruined than on the harm she'd caused. It was ratioed into oblivion. Some people might call this justice. Others might call it excessive punishment for a momentary lapse in judgment. But Maya had a different perspective, one she shared in a podcast interview a year later. What happened to Caroline is the consequence of her own actions. Not my actions, not cancel culture, not mob mentality. She assaulted me because she viewed me as less than human, as someone whose body she had the right to violate when I didn't behave as she expected. That belief didn't come from nowhere. It was nurtured by a lifetime of unchecked privilege and a workplace culture that enabled her behavior for years. I don't celebrate her downfall, but I refuse to mourn it either. My empathy is reserved for those who suffer through no fault of their own, not for those who inflict suffering and then cry about facing consequences. Today, Maya still works in corporate America, but on her own terms. She's built a reputation not just as an executive, but as an advocate. She mentors young Black women entering retail management, warning them about the obstacles they'll face, while also equipping them with tools to navigate and challenge those obstacles. She keeps a screenshot of one comment from that viral video on her office wall. It's from a young Black girl who wrote, "Thank you for not hitting her back. Thank you for showing that our dignity is worth protecting. Thank you for proving we can survive their violence without becoming violent ourselves." Beneath it, Maya added her own handwritten note. "We shouldn't have to survive violence in the first place, but until that world exists, we'll keep fighting for it." The slap lasted 3 seconds. The termination took 3 minutes. But the impact, the real systemic impact, is still unfolding. Because Maya's story isn't unique, it's tragically common. The difference is that hers was seen, recorded, and believed. How many others aren't? How many Black women are being slapped, literally or metaphorically, right now in workplaces across the world while bystanders stay silent? How many Carolines are being protected by institutional indifference? And most importantly, what are you going to do about it? If this story moved you, don't just watch and move on. Share it. Discuss it. Let it challenge you to examine your own workplace, your own biases, your own silence in moments when speaking up mattered. Change doesn't come from viral videos alone. It comes from people deciding that enough is enough and then doing something about it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this video. Let's turn collective outrage into collective action, because Maya's story should be the last of its kind, but it won't be.
unless we make sure it is.